All right, we're getting a lot of questions these days on HealthNet versus Anthem Blue Cross. And we understand why. In certain marketplaces, they can be very competitive, both in terms of network and in terms of pricing. And we're going to look at that. How do we compare the two? Before we do that, let's dive a little bit back into history and maybe date ourselves just a tad. And the understanding that originally you had WellPoint, which is now or became Anthem Blue Cross. WellPoint was forced by the state to spin off their HMO business. That became HealthNet. That was the origin of HealthNet when they spun that off. And over time, they both kind of went into the full marketplace, meaning HealthNet started adding PPO options to the mix, Medicare supplements as well. Anthem Blue Cross went out and created their own new HMO side of the business as well, and Advantage plans as well for Medicare. So now they kind of compete across the board, but let's really dive into where they're competitive and why people keep asking about these two carriers. We'll start with the individual family market, which is primarily covered California these days. Okay, so Anthem Blue Cross versus HealthNet in the individual family market, which is almost 99% covered California these days. Why? Because you can get subsidies, which brings down the cost. You have richer versions of the Silver, and now that Silver 73 is going to be available to anyone in 2025, and it has no deductible. It's almost a gold level plan. There really is no reason to be off exchange anymore. Both HealthNet and Anthem compete aggressively in the covered California on exchange and even off exchange market. They do it a little bit differently though, and that's where we need to start to break this down. In a given area, they may both have HMO options. So Anthem offers an HMO and they offer an EPO. The EPO is like a PPO, but you don't have benefits outside of the network other than a true emergency. So that's the EPO. We've been on EPOs, we've been on PPOs. They feel very comparable these days, but really it comes down to the network and access. HealthNet, on the other hand, still has a PPO option on the Cover California market. That puts them head-to-head with Blue Shield of California, which also has a PPO. What we're finding is in certain areas, HealthNet's network is pretty solid. So if you go Riverside, Orange County, down to San Diego, when we check networks, doctors, hospitals, between Blue Shield's PPO and HealthNet's PPO, sometimes we don't see that big of a difference, and yet the premium can really be different. For example, if we go up in Orange County, there's been a lot of noise about Providence lately, and Blue Shield's PPO has access. That HealthNet PPO may also have access. Check with us to make sure based on your area. So HealthNet went PPO. They still have an HMO. The HMO is competitive, but you're finding across the board, the HMOs all kind of walk and talk the same way, meaning the rates are about the same, benefits are standardized, so Silver 73 is identical regardless of the carrier. So it really comes down to doctors and hospitals you want access to. When you run a quote across the website, if we run that for you, you can check doctor provider links from every page to see who your doctors work with. We can chase this down for you as well. The online directories are not always great, so sometimes it's just good to ask your doctor, what covered California plan do you participate with? They know how to answer that question correctly, or let us go chase it down for you. But what we're seeing now is HealthNet's PPO in certain areas is solid. The HMO is pretty much similar with Anthem's HMO or even Blue Shield's HMO or even Kaiser. Those benefits and rates can be very comparable, and the benefits are the same. So it really comes down to pricing versus your doctors and hospitals, who you want access to and who has the best pricing for that, because the benefits are the same. That's the individual family comparison between HealthNet and between Anthem Blue Cross. Now let's switch gears over to the Medicare side of things. All right, now let's turn our attention to the Medicare side of things when comparing HealthNet and Anthem Blue Cross. Completely different ballgame. there are really two primary markets we have to look at and compare separately. First, you have Medicare supplements, which are kind of like the PPO side of things, where you can refer yourself out. You can go to any provider who takes Medicare anywhere in the United States. So much more flexible, much more control. They're more costly on a monthly basis in terms of your monthly premium, especially the G plan, which is by far the most popular. And so that's kind of the trade-off there. And then you have Medicare Advantage plans. There are PPO Advantage plans, but most people opt for the HMO side of things because it's cheaper, it's more robust in terms of benefits, and that's what's drawing them to Advantage plans to begin with. So two different markets, how do we compare them? We'll start with the supplement side of things. First of all, Health Net and Anthem Blue Cross are two of the four big carriers in California for Medicare supplements. You have Shield, you have United Health ARC, you have Anthem Blue Cross, you have Health Net. A couple other smaller ones that pop up every now and then. Those are the big four, and it's primarily pricing because benefits are identical. A G plan is a G plan regardless of the carrier. Networks are identical. You can go to any provider who takes Medicare. And so it's pricing and kind of pricing stability going forward. In terms of pricing, that's easy. You can run the quote from our website. We're happy to run those quotes for you across all the carriers to make sure you're getting the best rate. Pricing stability is a little more interesting because Health Net and Anthem will both offer a new to Medicare $25 a month discount. That goes away after 12 months. Then what? Or more importantly, when you're 67 or 70 years old or even 75, who's the better price plan? That can be completely different than when you first start at 65, and in fact, it probably will be. Luckily in California, we can use the birthday rule to change plans regardless of health around our birthday. So reach out to us a month or two prior to your birthday. We can run the quotes across all the carriers, and we'll see if you started with Anthem and they were cheaper, and now Health Net's cheaper or United Health is cheaper. We can make that change and we can help you navigate that whole process. So the birthday rule is fantastic. It keeps the carriers honest. They can't deviate now in terms of premium from others, and they can't lock you in. So when your health changes, you can't move. That's not the case anymore in California. We can help you with that. Health Net and Anthem are both competitive depending on your area and depending on your age, so we have to double check that. Then the Advantage side is completely different. Here's what we're saying. First of all, Health Net, most of their business is under WellCare for the Advantage side or Part D. Part D, they've been very aggressive. That's starting to catch up with them now on the pricing. On the Advantage side, they can be solid depending on the type of plan you're looking at. And that's the same for Anthem, meaning we can't say, oh, Anthem's better or WellCare's better. That's Health Net's Advantage market or brand name. You have to really look at your situation, meaning your doctors that you want to see, your medications, and you can load all those into the quote so it's taken into account, and we can do that for you as well. And then there's a question of, are you eligible for Medi-Cal? Do you have Medi-Medi or Medicare and Medi-Cal? Do you want a Part B give back plan? WellCare, Health Net has a pretty solid Part B give back, and they have a Medi-Medi give back plan, which is really popular right now. So it kind of depends on your situation. You can't say one size fits all. And then you have to look at the star ratings to say, what do existing members think about that given plan? You may have one plan with Anthem that's rated high, one plan with WellCare that's rated high. It depends on the situation and the actual plan. So they are definitely part of the mix. Where we see them be stronger, we see WellCare stronger when it comes to Medi-Medi, when it comes to the Part B give back we talked about. We see Anthem stronger when it comes to PPO Advantage plans, where you want more flexibility. Some of the special needs plans, that's Medi-Medi, or even the D-SNP or the C-SNP if you have a chronic illness. So it really is dependent on your situation. And that's why we ask questions, we dig into that, then we put together a quote based on your situation to see how they stack up. Because the two of them may not be the most competitive for Advantage versus other options, especially in a place like LA County, where you have lots of different options to look at. So reach out to us. Let's try to dial in whether or not they're a good fit for you, and we'll go from there. All right, now let's touch base on how do we compare small business plans between Anthem Blue Cross and Health Net in California. It really depends on the demographics. It's so hard to say, oh, this carrier is going to be the better setup for a given situation, because a lot of it's driven by area, and then a lot of it's driven by the ages and the makeup of your families and your individual employees. In one situation, Anthem may be priced better. In another situation, HealthNet may be. And in other situations, it may be a different carrier. Because what we'll usually do is we get your zip codes, dates of birth, then we run a benchmark quote across all the major carriers. Let's say a silver level plan, PPO, full network, and we see who's priced better. And then that'll give us a feel for, in that given area for that demographic, who's the better option. From year to year, it can really change, meaning it may be Anthem one year, it may be HealthNet the next year, and the area may definitely swing that, because carriers will try to be more aggressive in certain markets to essentially buy up market share. Fine, we'll take advantage of that as a company and get a lower rate for a comparable plan. Because keep in mind, the benefits are pretty much standardized, meaning they can't differ from the benchmark by plus or minus roughly 2%. So silver plans can be very similar with HealthNet as it is with Anthem Blue Cross, and maybe they give you some richer copays, but then you have a higher deductible. There's always a trade-off because they have to hit that benchmark. Once you understand that, it makes it easier. Then it's a question of network. Doctors, hospitals, there's a lot of overlap on the employer market, meaning the full networks are all pretty comparable because they're more robust, much more so than individual family. So then what do? How do we compare? We run the comparison quote at the benchmark to see who's priced better. That gives us a good feel for your company's situation, who's going to be the better option or better value. And then within the carriers, we can offer HMOs, PPOs, different levels, bronze, silver, gold, platinum. You can set your contribution as an employer so that your budget is nice and fixed, and then employees have choice in terms of the plan they want to pick. We can even offer Kaiser alongside Anthem or HealthNet. So you have a choice of Kaiser or a PPO, for example, with one of these two carriers. So the best bet is to run your quote or let us run it for you to see let's price shop the market. Don't just assume one is better than the other. Let's find out who is priced better for your situation. Then we drill down into the networks, make sure that's a good fit. And then we usually have a pretty good understanding. And keep in mind, the best option may not be either of them. It may be another carrier, but we'll see that when we run across the board a price comparison on a benchmark plan for all the big carriers available to your company.